Hello, welcome to NPAWorks. Today we're going to be talking about the new billing module in NPAWorks, which is currently in beta. With it, you'll be able to send and receive electronic claims with the latest detailed status, automatically post ERAs, and quickly post manual payments, make adjustments and transfers, and more. You'll be able to use the new claims ledger report to track details on claims submitted, primary insurance payments received, and client responsibility. You'll also be able to use the new payments ledger report to see primary insurance payments received and amounts still unapplied. All right, now let's get into the functionality. So we'll first start with the claims manager. And actually here on the main screen in the billing tab, you're seeing a few new icons. We'll get into all of these screens, but first we'll start with the claims manager. Okay, this is the claims manager that you know and love. We've added some new functionality. So if I go ahead and search, we're seeing some new statuses. All right, and these are the latest claim status, and it's refreshed every 5 minutes. We received this from Office Ally. You'll also be able to see a new option called Send 837P. This is how you're able to send your claims electronically to Office Ally. If you have the new billing module enabled for your site, you will no longer have the option to export 837Ps manually, because now we're sending and receiving claims electronically, so we'll be able to see the latest status. All right, now we have a new tab called the Claims Ledger. Here you can see charge lines, and we have lots of information about each charge line, so we'll get into that. So we have a claim status, and we also have the line status. Claim status is the status for the claim, line status is for the charge line. Once your claim status has been accepted for adjudication by the payer, the status for your claim status will change to 837 received. And once it is received, it may be accepted and payment may be received. If payment is received electronically, it'll be auto-posted. So ERAs will be auto-posted, and line statuses will start being updated. We'll also receive some files from the clearinghouse, from Office Ally. We have 2 files, and the most recent one is selected by default. The first file we receive is the HCFA file. This is from the clearinghouse stating that they have the claims and they've been sent for processing. The second file that we have is the 5010. It's basically an 837 but in readable format, and this will show the payment information after insurance has received and processed the claim. All right, so I'll show you a few examples of the most common scenarios. So this is for an 835 response, and the claim has been paid in full. You'll see that we have 2 files. The first file was the HCFA, and this is showing that the clearinghouse did receive the claim, and it's going to be either accepted or rejected by the clearinghouse. In this case, this was accepted, and this claim was then sent to insurance for processing. You can see here there's redacted information. You know, in the case of real usage, you would see the patient ID and the last name, first name. For HIPAA, we did redact this information. The second file that was received now that it was processed by insurance and it was paid is the 5010, which again, it's an 837, but in readable format. So here we can see that there were some checks and there was some payment. Okay, so that was the paid in full. Then we have initially accepted by payer, which is this example here. So this was initially accepted by the clearinghouse. And again, we only see that one file. It hasn't been submitted to insurance for payment yet. So we see this file. There's also initially accepted by payer EDI, but it was denied. So it was sent Office Ally, but it was denied. And let's see. So this was sent to Office Ally. It was accepted by Office Ally. It was denied. We did not get a payment. Then we have rejected by payer EDI, which is the clearinghouse. So this will show rejection, and it'll state the rejection reason here. We can also see the rejection reason in this column, rejection reason. If you simply click here, you'll see that same rejection code. And you would see files for each line. In this case, this is a test environment, so we're only seeing some files. But in usage, you would see files for everything that was sent. So as far as line statuses go, once posting happens and ERAs are posted automatically again, the line status will be updated accordingly. This is calculated, there's 4 statuses. I'm sorry, 5. Complete, short pay, overpaid, patient responsibility, and denied. The way these statuses are calculated are off of the expected reimbursement amount, which uses the contract rate, as opposed to the fee schedule rate, which are entered at the funding source level in NPA. Before the 835 is received by insurance, the line status will be blank. Once the 835 is received, you'll see the claim status showing 835 response, and the line status will start being updated. If in this case here, if the charge line was paid in full, meaning the expected reimbursement amount equals all the funding source payments plus all the client payments, you'll see complete, in this case here. If the payments were less than expected, so expected reimbursement amount was greater than the funding source payments plus the client payments, you'll see short pay. If it's the opposite, payments were more than expected, you'll see overpaid, and you would see client responsibility or patient responsibility, depending on how your site is set up. You would see this if the copay, coinsurance, deductible, or miscellaneous fields for patient responsibility are more than 0. And you would see denied if the claim was denied by insurance. And again, the rejection reason that we see here, we have an example in April, will appear when the line status is showing as rejected by payer EDI, and you'll be able to see the actual code here. Now we will get into the rebill flow in a second, in case it's rejected and you would want to rebill. All right, so from here, let's say it was short pay, and I want to edit my charge line here. I can go directly to a window called Edit Charge Lines from here. And from here, you're adjusting the charge line on its own. You don't have to go to find the original payment and go from there. If you know you're just going to rebuild or settle the charge line, you can just double click and go directly to this screen. I'll be showing the payment screen in a little bit. So here we have the charge line details. We have a history of everything that was done. So we received a payment, then looks like there was an adjustment. And again, this is all test data. You have some actions here that are available. You can do an adjustment. And here we show all the adjustment codes. And if you happen to know the code, you can simply enter it on your keyboard. I'm searching on my keyboard here. And we have all of these adjustment codes. So if I make an adjustment, let's say for this code, it'll post that amount, and I see a history here along with the staff member who made that change. I can do a balance transfer, and I can select my funding sources here. This list is from the order of precedence from the client's contract tab. In this case, the client just has the one funding source. If they had a primary and secondary, those would appear here as well. Speaking of primary and secondary, for this version of billing, we do support primary private insurance. The support for secondary private insurance is coming in a later phase. And for regional non-insurance, such as regional center and school district, you'll be able to enter the payments manually, which I will show you in a little bit. Another action I can do here is transfer a partial balance to client responsibility. And I select my balance here. You'll notice that for transfer balance, it transfers the full balance. There's no option to select a partial balance. Here I can transfer $10 to, let's say, the patient's deductible or copay or miscellaneous, any one of these options. $10 here, post. And if I chose to enter a note, I would have been able to enter the note. In a future phase, we do have flex reports coming where you'll be able to run those reports and pull your notes that were entered. If you'd like to rebill, here's the rebill option. I'll get into that in a little bit. There's a simple note action, test note, and it'll post here. Same with follow-up. I can select the follow-up date. It'll show the note along with the follow-up date and time. So again, for notes and follow-ups, we do have flex reports coming in the future, which you'll be able to run. As of right now, it's only shown in the transaction history. For rebill, the rebill flow, I select rebill. I can write a note as to why I'm rebilling. And I can post. Once I post, the line status will change. And once you do resubmit the claim, let me show you the line status. It would change to ready to rebill. And once I resubmit the claim, the system will automatically resubmit the claim with the resubmission code 7 and the original claim number so that it doesn't get denied as a duplicate. And once the the claim gets sent out for the second time, I will receive the second HCFA file, because remember the first one was rejected and there was no 5010 originally because it was rejected. So I'll receive a second HCFA file, and if I get paid the second time, I will receive the 5010 file. All right, so that covers the claims ledger, the claims tab, and the edit charge line window. Now let's go and find my payments. I go back to the main screen billing tab, payments ledger. Here I can search for my payments, and we have many filters up here: payer type, payer name, and here, using my keyboard keys, I can jump to the payer I'd like. Payment method, posting date. If I'd like to select a posting date, adjudication date, reference number, which is also the check number, batch number, and I can choose to show only payments that have unapplied amounts. Here in the top window, I'm seeing my payments. In the bottom window, I'm seeing the charge lines that apply to these payments. As I click through, I'll see the charge lines being updated. And in this case, if I'd like to edit the charge line again from here, I can simply double click. It'll pull up the edit charge line window, the same window we saw previously, and I can go ahead and select my actions here. In this case, if I would like to enter a manual payment, I can click Add Payment here. I can also access Add Payment from the main screen. I click Add Payment. I can enter some information. Let's say this was a client payment. Client was Christina Aguilera. Let's say it was a check, some reference number, adjudication date, and let's say we received a $20 check, copay. I can save this payment. I can continue entering payments. If I click Save and New, it'll save this and open up a new Add Payment window. If I'd like to apply this payment immediately, I can click Apply. In this case, we'll click Apply. And we come to the Apply Payments page. You'll see that the payer name, in this case it was a client, the payer name is populated at the top along with the reference number or check number. Here I can search for clients, claims, charge lines, and I can post this payment to my selected charge line. In case there are more than 500 results, I would have seen an error message asking me to narrow down my search. I could have entered part of a claim number, client, or narrow down my date of service date range. Okay, here I'm seeing the check amount, and the unapplied amount. Here, I can select the client here, and I can. These are the claims for the selected client, and these are the charge lines for the selected claim. And as I click through the charge lines, I can see that the transaction history for that charge line. Again, this is the same transaction history that we saw in the edit charge line window. You'll notice that as I select the charge line, my cursor is automatically in this allowed amount field. This window is designed for minimal mouse usage, and there's a lot of tabbing functionality. So I can enter my amount for, let's go back, let's select this. I can enter an amount, tab to the next field, no contractual, no secondary. Let's say there was a $20 deductible. It's fine. $10 copay, $20, and I can go to amount paid 10. Again, this is just test data, so the numbers don't matter. I tap to save and next, hit enter on my keyboard. You'll notice that it jumps to the next charge line. It's ready for me to continue. This would make sense with a larger payment. But anyway, you'll see that the transaction history was updated here, and it jumps me to the next charge line. Once this charge line ends, it'll jump to the next claim, and so on and so forth until the end of the last charge line of the last claim of this client. And when I hit save and next line at that point, it would take me to the first claim, the first charge line of this next client. I have some filters up here too where I can only show, where I can choose to show only certain scenarios. Actions down here, I have the same actions as on edit charge line with the addition of a payment reversal option and an additional payment option. For payment reversal, the amount that I enter here is going to be deducted from the check paid amount. For the additional payments, it just adds an additional payment. And for these other options, the adjustment and so forth, if I select the negative minus on my keyboard, it will switch to a negative amount that is shown in this way with the parentheses, and I can choose to do so there. Okay, so this was for a non-ERA. Let's look at what an ERA looks like. What would happen is essentially these fields would stay disabled, except for, so that I can't edit the ERA details because it was an electronic payment. Okay, the actions would still be available for me. And we did see add payments to add a manual payment, and we saw the payments here. That covers all the features for the latest the latest version of our billing module, which is in beta. I will show you some additional windows, but let's first get into onboarding. There is an onboarding process for this feature. First, you will have to request SFTP credentials from Office Ally. We cannot onboard you until we have the SFTP credentials. This will allow our system to talk on the back end with Office Ally and receive your claim statuses. The details are, our support team will be able to send the details if you choose to continue with using our billing module. Another step is to ask Office Ally to create a new child account. This is so that in case there are any issues, our support team can log in with very limited access to your Office Ally account to see the claim status as is shown in Office Ally and compare that with the claim status that's shown in our billing module. The third step is to enroll the funding sources that you would like to receive ERAs from in Office Ally to receive ERAs. Please note that this process may take up to 2 months depending on the speed of the insurance, their response time. So we recommend starting this step as soon as possible. The fourth step is to define funding sources in the funding source and master funding source windows. This can only be created after we have onboarded you and upgraded your site for the billing module, but it must be completed before the billing module can be used. If this step is not completed, there will be problems with the billing. So we recommend to complete the step as soon as your site is updated for billing. The master funding source is a new concept. It links funding sources across agencies. So the master funding source table, the window, will contain all the unique funding sources that you contract with across all your agencies. To access the master funding source window, click master funding source here. So this table should contain a list of all the funding sources that you contract with across all your agencies. We will have a script to automatically populate this list for you. However, we do recommend to go in and double check and make sure that information is correct. For private insurance, the script will automatically just populate the commercial value, and I can show you what that looks like. For private insurance, for network, we have 2 options, commercial and Medicaid. So in case some of your private insurances are Medicaid, you would have to select it, click edit, and select Medicaid here. We also have a payer vendor ID. We have funding source type, school district, regional center, private pay, private insurance, and of course, the name would be entered here. So you can add, remove, and edit. Once these are entered, you would go into the funding source window and select the proper master funding source in this dropdown here. So for this funding source, we're saying that this funding source in agency 1, agency 2, 3, 4, 5 is link to this. And to do that, I would open this funding source window in Agency 1, select this, open it in Agency 2, do the same thing, and so on and so forth. That is the last step for using the billing module for getting onboarded. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our team. We'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.